Ultimately, as I just said to myself, I don't compete against myself in order to compete against others. You see how that works? I tried to share that with my dad. I do not play binary ping pong games, Pop. I do not run polarized consciousness. I experience being one with all creation that I'm gifting love to. So I'm not in competition with anybody, which means I'm not playing any games with nobody. Right? However, there is a caveat to that, and there is a track meet that I am in with myself, but it's not an inverted track meet of competing against myself by competing with others. It's you have a high level of macabre precision to complete things at a very precise moment, which is the opening and closing of a magnet at the highest rate of speed, in which an event occurs by the use of my consciousness in which it happens. In order to complete what we have to complete in order to be successful, because we move at a higher rate of speed than something that's dead. That is a torque speed measurement of learning. Okay. And so that would be a guardian perspective, right? And certainly I've shared that throughout my whole life, what my life experiences have been by virtue of how others can get to know who I am by virtue of what I do with my energy, right? So I've been, I'm like that little kid that wants to be a lifeguard, just like Dr. Robert O. Young. He would say he would gravitate to be in situations where he would use his energy, his soul consciousness, and the essence of his spirit, right, to help people, to help heal people, right? Because it's just like when I was a little kid, and I realized when you realize that when you're a polarity integrator at the oversoul level, you experience everything everybody else experiences wherever you go. Okay, so not just on a planetary level, but a galactic level and a universal level. Okay, that's just the truth of it. And the reason is simple, is because your antenna is hypersensitive. So I experience what you experience. And if you're not experiencing what love is, then I'm not experiencing what love is, but that's what I am. So you are everything that I am, I'm giving love to. So if you're not experiencing what love is, I got to heal you in order to heal me. That's called rebuilding yourself. That's rebuilding the universe. That's called a full reset. Whoa, so I'm back to the beginning, as if there wasn't any time and we never experienced any wars. That's precisely correct. Because now I'm experiencing being one, because the one doesn't experience any war. You can't experience war against yourself in your own mirror when you're the highest accelerator of electrons. It means you're not holding yourself captive, which means you're not holding one unit of energy captive. Oh, it doesn't like that. Boy, it shot a wave at me. See the coughing? Oh, it's pissed. What it does, you got to know the communication system you want to run. You want to run a deadline. See how aggressive it is? It's a shark. The communication system everyone's using that's set up with their cell phones is a shark. And this is really the truth of it if you haven't figured this out. The longer that you keep using these communication systems, if you have a soul left, in order to keep it running is to drain all your soul's energy until it's gone and keep it running. That's your QI cyberspace. Cybernetic cyborgs, that's all your Blade Runners. Remember, go watch the movie Avatar. You know, when I was a child growing up, I try and remember, I run with love in my heart, but there are a few words that people know because they can translate the English language and what we mean. I can think of a few words: disgusting, pathetic, disgraceful, disharmonic, distorted. It's just like, God, I know, Mama. You gotta love them, right? I remember seeing a post up that came across my Facebook page about how do we heal this AI. This is pretty massive. How long do you think it's going to take? Now, the sun already told us. Bartle point was already reached, which means there's not enough energy left that we can pull, right, in order to convert it into something that it's not. Remember, I talked about that before. How much energy is it going to take? Like when I'm a little kid. Oh, my God, Mama, this is going to take a while to do this from a polarity integrator's point of view. Because the polarity integrator is trying to pull in all the fragments that it keeps fracturing. We're buying time. That's really what it is. To prevent a fall. That's called holding the fort down, which is keeping the poles imbalanced. Right? So another thing I put in my clan mother's window was what was it I said? Ancient spiritual roots. I saw somebody put up a little thing about how they've abandoned the elders. They no longer want to be associated with the root race, the founder race, ancient ancestral spiritual knowledge. They've chosen, say, if you will, a different pathway because now that they're arrogant and they think that they're smarter because they're hooked up with superhuman intelligence, because when they see the word superhuman intelligence, wow. Now we're back to the Nordics and the Nazis and Dr. Mengele building a master race because the AI is mapping all the data, so they have the access to the data, and they're going to use that data to do what? Well, what do you think they do? Okay, so this is one of the reasons why everything that they roll out through all their universities by all of the units of consciousness that are formed of formation, right, means that everything that they produce is already obsolete before they produced it. For obvious reasons. The torque speed differential between the speed at which they're learning through the lowest form of intelligence. So they're always going to be behind. And they will always be behind. Because they're spinning in the opposite direction, which means they're going back to a lower form of intelligence. Well, that's like going back from, say, higher cognitive ascended master as if they were once an ascended master. They fell and they lost. Now they're going back to being an ape, and then they're going to go down to an amphibian. Then they're going back down to a jellyfish. Now they're going back to some smaller unit, an amoeba, something in the ocean, and then back down to multicellular, smaller, multicellular, multidimensional to a single cell. Well, back to the single cell? You got to go all the way back to the single cell, to the source from which it all began? Well, that's where it all started, right? So they're not going to lose anything that they didn't already start with, which is what love is. It just means they got to accrete their way back. Rebuild their consciousness to experience more light, which experience more love. Now that becomes a much larger expansion of consciousness. So you realize when you have a state of consciousness that is going in the other direction, it's losing more of what it's aware of rather than gaining more of what it's aware of. That's what you have. That's why using this communication system is going back in time. You're not going forward in time by learning at a higher rate of speed by the teachers that we choose to be with. A lower form of intelligence or a higher form of intelligence. Choosing the one to be with. That's the truth of it. Why do you think this thing attacks me? Disables my camera. Okay, you're not ever going to see my distribution up, and it doesn't have anything to do with an ego because I've chosen to serve forever, which is the eternal spirit of fire. But you could see by what it was doing to me, you could tell by my coffee, it doesn't want you to experience what I learned by what I share. Because then it realizes if you learn through my experiences, you might choose a different teacher. The difference between a teacher that's living and one that's dead. A dead like magnet. So we're choosing our teachers. I was a little kid when I'm going, hey, I don't want to go to their schools. I'm running to go be with Mama. Jeez. Seriously, why do you think all these communications were set up to walk all over her signal? So that you join forces with cyberspace, quantum, parallelogram, binary coded voltage, right? Because Harold put it in everyone's face, but it doesn't matter. Barking crystals can bark all they want, because at the end of the day, we don't impose our will. But once you become aware of what we become aware of, you can't become unaware of it, because you recorded it in memory and you can pull it back up in memory. It's what you choose to do with the information. Because if you have a relationship with your heart and your soul with Mama Earth, then you already know what the truth is, because that's where you're getting the information. Right? And because the simple truth is that when you're online experiencing the visual information, that event has already happened, like gone. It's called water under a bridge. So if you're always getting information that is water under a bridge, you're pissing on the now to experience something that's already happened. Anybody that's ever been in an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting knows that. Okay? That's one of the brilliant wisdom that you can learn. Go into an AA meeting. Sit down and read the big book. Go read chapter 5. It tells you all about how future proves past works. There's only right now, which means a moment. What are we experiencing in the moment? You see, the past is already gone, so you can't do nothing about that, right? Because that's a past recording. Okay, the future hasn't happened yet, right? So there's only right now. So if you got any creativity in you, and you're on fire to create, then you're going to create a different world that you want to live in than the one that's dead. Which is dead like magnet, which is dead like communications. Which means using their communication system, their laptops, you're not creating anything new. Everything is looping through an AI. So these are called captured units, because they're captured by the technology that they're using to experience the past, because it's always looping. And you just keep looping, and he'll keep looping until your bulb is burned out, because it's going after the endocrine system. It's in attack mode. Now you can tell by what it's doing over in Canada. Now you got calls to shut this thing down, turn it off. What's the military going to do about that? You think they're going to throw all their weapons away and honor the highest code of conduct, which is the one? I'm throwing my weapons away. Okay, I'm going to get down on my hands and knees. Okay, and go back in spirit to go be with Mama. Wow, I want to ascend with Mama. Choices. One you're with. You know, in spite of everything Patty Bessard has ever said, I will always remind her, because I am not afraid to put my mirror up in her mirror's face. Okay, even though, bless her heart, because I send her love every single day. There is the highest law. There's only one. That's it. So if you are choosing to honor the highest law there is, that's what love is. So when Patty Bessard mentioned one time, Gaia had to keep hitting me over the head to remind me of that, and I'm going, you need a reminder of that? You're supposed to know that. Remember when you said you're supposed to know? Because I know how easy it is to be a preacher and you're not listening to your own lectures. Right? I know that because I've experienced that. Being me and experiencing that, it's like, I know what the truth is, but am I living the truth? Now you know why you're being held captive to something that isn't what the truth is, because of experiencing all the programs that everyone's running that we're experiencing. That's why I gave a command function to the elementals. When I'm done with this, it's gone, because you know everything that doesn't represent what love is, because it means that you know the difference between something that's dead and something that's alive. A live wire. Eternal spirit of fire. Right? So if I'm going to be honorable and true to my word, which is what I am, which is what I know that I am what love is. So therefore I do no harm. That's why I can't put a military uniform on. Right? Even though I wore a uniform one time and they wanted me to put rank on, and that's to let somebody else know to reinforce hierarchy that you're held captive to, right? Which means obey. Remember the movie Roddy Piper? Hey, I got a new pair of glasses. Alcoholics Anonymous has a great book, by the way, called A New Pair of Glasses. You ever see how all this information is sort of coded and cross-indexed in a circulation library in the planetary memory banks? I know. That's why when I went through Alcoholics Anonymous myself, I thought, man, step 12, that's what it is. It's love and service to others, and wanted to spend working in the trenches, and working through the main office of Alcoholics Anonymous, and going to meetings and trying to share, because there are a lot of things, even in these rooms with hundreds of people. Because I know this, because I've shared a lot of this, it's difficult for those to translate the frequencies and the codes when you understand what it means to have a full spiritual awakening, which means you've recovered what you've lost in energy as a result of fragments or body parts that have been broken off, which is why we did the work that we did to repair the body parts and put the body parts back together in the goddess energy on the planet. The end of history and the rebirth of goddess energy. Absolutely. The higher octave, the better music. So those that are ascended masters know the music, the one you're with. The ones that love to play music. That's why I love the Voyager musics that have the songs of Shaya, right? Ra, Shanana, Mua, Kamalawati. I never forgot those. It makes my heart sing and my heart cries. That's the music. The music makes your heart cries because you know the one you're with. So obviously I woke up this morning with some downloads that I gave to myself, and also because of who I'm connected with. So I have a responsibility to share what I become aware of, what I become aware of when I become aware of it, because it's safe to share it, right? So you know how that works with something that's dead. Once it becomes aware of what you're aware of, now it's going to make a counter space. So the more that it realizes what it's experiencing through us, the work that we've done, it goes on a counterattack. You know what a counterattack is, right? Anybody that's ever studied war, right, goes on the counterattack. So you can see what it does. And why does it go after the trees? Because trees are mirrors. They're filters. They filter junk, dirty electricity, goo, poisons, toxic, just like epidemiology, the dose-response relationship. The dose-response relationship between what we're exposed to, which means what we breathe, right? What we consume, what we absorb, and what we inject. And then what we're going to experience, the effect or the impact of those codes, right? So you're in, if you will, from a hazmat perspective, a contaminated zone. Being exposed to something that's meant to kill you off. And not just hominids. Every living organism. Which is the central nervous system of the universe. Because now you're back into the polarity, which is the reaction states. Right? To burn out the bulb. Right? Burn out your central nervous system. Drive you mad. So it's not only driving the girl mad on the planet, but everybody on the planet that has a central nervous system. A cellular nervous system. That's right. Think about all the little worms and the bugs and the birds and the little microorganisms that experience B-52 bombers dropping 2,000-pound bombs on Vietnam. How do you think they feel about that? How about nuclear weapons? How about directed energy weapons? Where do you think the directed energy weapons come from? Us. Our energy. Our oversoul's energy. That's right. Artificial stars, living stars, the eternal star, the eternal one. That's who I work for ultimately. Cosmina. Dolores mentioned one time about how the one, the eternal one, has messengers that are not normally in physical form. Okay? I'm one of those. I'm not normally in matter. I'm normally in non-physical form, so that I experience the purity of that love, because that's the energy that I am, that I'm always with. So you can sort of scale that up to why that would be when you consider what was at stake, or the scale to which we can measure something on an echo level. Okay? Because there were some folks that wanted to cut off the arm, just like if you know how cellulitis works. Like if you've ever seen the movie with Neo and Mr. Smith, and he sticks his hand into Neo, and you see all that goo, black goo, moving through his body, right? But Neo was able to transmute it, and all that light comes out. Remember? That little scene there, and that big crater with all that rain, with all that vapor, with all that ether, and then you see all that light coming from the inside out of Mr. Smith, was to let Mr. Smith know, Neo, I'm the one. I came first. You can never put that fire out for the Trinity. Which means I'm always with the girl. Which is why in the scene, in the last Matrix scene, you see, no, all the bots were telling him no. The AI, the dead light magnet. No, she was trying to remember. Her husband was pulling her back. No, come with me. Come with me to be with the artificial person, the artificial light. Come with me. Be with the artificial light. Be with the superhuman intelligence. And then she looked at Neo. I know you, Neo. I never forgot you, Neo. I know the one. You are what love is, that goes on forever. Gifting electrons. I want to be with you. And you could see how freaked out the other players, the role players in that movie, were freaked out when those hands came together. Once Trinity had grabbed the hand of Neo, bang! That's polarity integration. Now you become one. Now there isn't any separation between the poles. The poles become one. That's mononuclear. That's a monopole. That's the rod. And then you have the cross that goes horizontal. Fill it all up with eternal light. So that's what it's reacting to. Because it's experiencing more light, but it's dead light. So it's in resistant mode to experience more living light because it's dead light. So it makes a counter space move, which is called a counterattack in military strategic terms, because that's what it is. It's a binary wargamer. Gaming for your mind's energy, which is your soul's energy. I know, Mama. Anyway, it's I put it up. There it is. Now you can't become unaware of it. For those that are aware of it, what you choose to hold in memory, and what you choose to get rid of memory, and what you know to be the truth, which is what the law is, which is what love is. And that is the highest code of honor, which is the highest word of honor. To honor your word, which is to honor who you are in grace and wisdom. So it's a measurement of their learning. Because when you get right down to where the rubber hits the pavement, when I talk to folks that are in the military, okay, is the perception of power. And whether the perception of power is through love or fear, to let go of what they're held captive to, that they're allowing their energy to be used for to go to war in their own mirror against the one. So you know the obvious result of that. And now we're back to experiencing a different result. You're not going to get a different result if you keep repeating the same burn patterns that are distorted as a result of what we do in our own mirror against our own selves. I know, Mama. There are no stronger words I know how to be able to say that, particularly now, particularly after I experience what's going on over there in Canada. Okay? That's a major counterattack. That's what it does. It's making a counterattack. through all of its assets, right? The superhuman intelligence asset, the cyborgs, right? The cybernetic units, cyber wars, headhunters. Watch the movie, it's all there. Have a great day. I love you all. Be good to yourselves.